The long-awaited moment has now arrived for the XRP army. The long-awaited initial public offering has been confirmed by Ripple's official S-1 registration with the SEC. Following years of conjecture, legal disputes, and regulatory ambiguity, Ripple is coming public. Furthermore, the true narrative is hidden beneath the sensational headlines, a twist so potent that it might propel XRPs to previously unheard-of heights. Because XRP, the digital asset that drives Ripple's worldwide payment infrastructure, will be a factor for Wall Street for the first time. An important turning point for Ripple and the cryptocurrency sector as a whole is the company's first public offering, IPO. This is a significant public debut in the Silicon Valley tradition, putting Ripple on a same footing with tech and financial giants like Coinbase, PayPal, and Visa. It's not just another token push or exchange listing. One significant distinction, though, is that Ripple is now a successful fintech giant with international bank connections and a practical utility token at its heart, rather than a speculative cryptocurrency company. Insiders estimate that Ripple's IPO may bring the company's valuation close to $100 billion, automatically placing it among the most valuable fintech companies globally. But since every dollar of that valuation has strong linkages to XRP, this is where things start to become really interesting. First, let's define an S-1 filing. Simply put, everything investors need to know prior to the initial public offering, IPO, is laid out in Ripple's S-1 document, which was filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This includes the company's financials and ownership structure, revenue sources, and outlook for the future. For many years, Ripple has made money through its institutional relationships, payment network, and, most importantly, its on-demand liquidity platform, which settles international transactions using XRP. This indicates that the usefulness and worth of the XRP token itself are integral to Ripple's fundamental business strategy. And when the S-1 filing makes this information public, Wall Street will finally realize what XRP investors have understood all along: that XRP is more than just a cryptocurrency. It is the engine that drives Ripple's whole ecosystem. This is where the twist comes in. There are whispers that Ripple's initial public offering, IPO, might contain a surprise incentive, a special dividend, or an allocation of XRP to shareholders. Just think of the financial world's reaction. Millions of conventional investors would be exposed to XRP for the first time if even a small portion of Ripple's IPO investors were given XRP as part of their ownership. The best link between digital assets and conventional finance would be this: institutional investors would actually own cryptocurrency rather than merely reading about it, which might lead to a completely new wave of adoption. Consider it this way. Coinbase's 2021 IPO not only raised billions of dollars, but it also gave the cryptocurrency industry legitimacy in the eyes of Wall Street. Imagine Ripple carrying out the same task, but with active collaborations with central banks, direct connections to a working global payment network, and a native coin that is essential to its operations. The effect on the market can be dramatic. Before the IPO, institutional investors, mutual funds, and individual stock buyers will be investigating Ripple. What will they discover? They will discover XRP, the digital asset that links the business's worldwide ambition, liquidity, and technology. And the FOMO will be irrepressible once people see how cheap XRP is in comparison to Ripple's valuation. The market capitalization of XRP may increase by tens of billions of dollars overnight, if even 10% of that capital moves into the token, as investors want to gain exposure to Ripple's cryptocurrency company. What this would look like is already being modeled by analysts. Furthermore, when the market adapts to this new reality, even conservative projections indicate that XRP will reach price levels between $75 and $100. And that's only the start. The IPO of Ripple also signifies something much larger: the final confirmation of the usefulness of blockchain technology and conventional finance. In contrast to other cryptocurrency businesses that depend on speculation, Ripple's value stems from practical implementation. Banks, payment processors, and central banks all around the world are already using its technology. It is resolving the inefficiency of cross-border payments, a problem worth trillions of dollars. The relationship between stock and token will become evident when investors recognize that XRP's performance and liquidity are critical to Ripple's core business. Understanding that XRP is the catalyst for Ripple's development is more important than simply purchasing shares. Now let's examine the psychology of what follows. Media outlets will resume covering Ripple as the excitement surrounding the IPO grows. Forbes, Bloomberg, and CNBC are all discussing this cryptocurrency company's IPO. Retail investors will unexpectedly rediscover XRP if they missed its early days. The fundamentals of XRP will be examined by institutional investors who had previously disregarded cryptocurrency, and XRP will come up whenever the Ripple IPO is brought up. In terms of brand, technology, and financial performance, the two are inextricably interwoven. This is how demand is fueled by awareness, and demand in turn determines price. What Ripple's IPO means for regulation, however, is the more complex tale. Ripple essentially complies with U.S. securities legislation by filing with the SEC and getting approved for an IPO. That regulatory clarity has a knock-on effect, giving investors assurance that the legal ambiguity around XRP has been lifted. Major exchanges, charities, and institutional products like exchange-traded funds, ETFs, can now incorporate XRP without worrying about regulatory repercussions. To put it another way, Ripple's IPO opens up the XRP market globally in addition to helping the company. And pay attention to the timing. The IPO coincides with Ripple's full-scale global expansion. Ripple is already collaborating with central banks in more than 20 nations to provide liquidity corridors and CBDC solutions that use the XRP ledger. These collaborations will be highlighted in investor presentations and filings after the company goes public, drawing attention to XRP's usefulness on a global scale. That is exposure, not hype. The prestige element is another. The entire financial ecosystem gets alerted that blockchain is now institutional and not just experimental when a company like Ripple listings on a major U.S. stock exchange. This type of mental change has the power to drastically alter markets in a single day. XRP is the digital bridge asset that connects traditional money to the future of international payments. Ripple's IPO has the potential to alter the narrative surrounding crypto-based finance, much like Tesla did with electric vehicles. Let's talk numbers now. Prior to the first public offering, IPO, Ripple's private shares were already valued at over $50 billion on secondary markets. Tetragon, Andres, and Horowitz, and other large venture funds have early stakes. If Ripple's IPO debuts at $100 billion, and XRP's current market capitalization is between $30 and $40 billion, those valuations may easily quadruple after the company goes public. It is no longer possible to maintain the relative disparity between XRP's token value and Ripple's corporate value. As consumers look for leveraged exposure to Ripple's performance through the token, investors will notice this imbalance, and you can be confident that the capital rotation from Ripple equity into XRP will occur organically. This completes the circle of the story. The idea behind Ripple's initial launch was XRP, a digital currency that could rapidly transfer money across borders. It was the foundation of the business, but acceptance was hampered by regulatory opposition. Now that the SEC battle is over, regulatory clarification has been attained, and the IPO has been approved, that initial vision is at last coming to fruition. The IPO of Ripple is more than just a financial achievement. It's the time when the general public realizes XRP's actual potential. The largest wealth change in cryptocurrency history may be brought about by the Ripple IPO. Early XRP holders who waited through years of uncertainty may finally see their patience paid off. Organizations who previously disregarded XRP as, just a cryptocurrency for bankers, may soon find themselves in a competition to purchase it. Analysts will soon begin publishing reports that relate the performance of Ripple's shares to the on-chain volume of XRP. Furthermore, XRP becomes increasingly essential to Ripple's business model as it expands. This kind of self-reinforcing loop has the potential to usher in a new era of price discovery for XRP. What comes next, then? Soon, the public will be able to view Ripple's S1 file, which includes